Okay, I see all the members are present. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to open up the regular meeting at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible.
with justice for all. Okay, thank you. Public comments, written requests only. I have not received any written requests for public comment. Approval of regular meeting on December 16, 2020. Just raise your hand if you're going to make the motion. Motion by Dave. I think that's your hand. Yeah. Do I have a second? Second by Kyle. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? So carried 5-0. Thank you. Management report, Chief.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So as always, I start out with the budget. The budget is fine at this point. There's no issues or concerns. Our projected revenue income, I think, is right where it should be at the halfway point in the fiscal year. The budget summit was held, obviously, on January 6th. That's where all department heads meet with the Board of Finance members, the first select women, and all town entities present our budget. I presented our budget. That went very well, I thought. There were some recommendations. I'll go over some of that later. It's on the agenda to approve that budget. But basically, we asked for 2 cars. Those 2 cars were removed. That reflects it in our budget. And I'll go over more of that later. There's a request to look at a situation on Skilcrat Street at Barn Hill. We've been reviewing that. Commander Fabiano, Deputy Chief Rinaldi have been reviewing that. I reviewed it myself. I even reached out to the town engineer. We talked about maybe extending sidewalks, maybe putting a crosswalk. So some of that's going to be further studied in the springtime. As the weather clears up, I think we'll do a traffic study there, and that'll give us a better idea with traffic, speed, et cetera, as we have on other roads. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to patrol that area, monitor the traffic, and do some enforcement. We had a meeting with the residents in Rolling Hills, the first select woman, myself, the deputy chief, and Detective Matasovich. They had some concerns with things that have been occurring in Seymour, in their neighborhood with car break-ins, et cetera. So I think that was a good start for our first open dialogue. We plan on having future meetings with that and open those lines of communication. We're going to pursue maybe some crime watch opportunities in the future. So that'll be a work in progress. As far as personnel goes, we have one officer on light duty returned to full duty. We had one administration position that remains open. The inspector position remains open due to the retirement. We'll speak about that a little bit later on the inspector position, the update. I had one employee out on a sick leave of absence, will be out for several weeks. One employee is quarantined due to the COVID. As a precautionary member, a family member listed. So that employee is going to be out. We have one employee that will be out due to personnel circumstances, personal. The SROs were delayed. School was supposed to open this week. They delayed a week. So next week, the SROs will be going back to the schools pending no further delays. In the interior, we've been providing some security at the community center due to the vaccines that have started with the North Valley Health District and everything that's been going on throughout the country. Heightened awareness. We've been obviously increased our presence at several of the town buildings, including Town Hall, Community Center, and all around town. So I think that's it for now. And like I said, there'll be other things as we go through the agenda that we'll discuss further.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any board members have any comments or questions at this time? Okay, see nobody's hands raised. Commissioners' comments. I'll start with it in order. Dave Bizzo, do you have any comments?
This time.
You're on mute, Dave.
No, I came off, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next, Tom Bennett, do you have any comments?
The only comment I'd have, Mr. Chairman, is I asked, did we miss our annual vote for officer positions on our board on our last December meeting?
We could place that on the table if you would like.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to vote for officers.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion to place on the table to elect officers of the board. Do I have a second? Second by John Duke. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Yes.
Raise your hand. Opposed? Abstention? So carried. On the agenda at this time, elect officers of the commission. Do I have any nominations for chairman? Yes, Tom?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Kelly for the chairman's position.
Do I have a second? Raise your hand. Second by John Duke. Thank you. Do I have any other nominations for chairman? Hearing no other nominations, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstention, so carried, 4-0. Thank you. Okay, Kyle, take over.
Mr. Chairman, you indicated 4-0. You have to indicate who the nay or the abstention was. Was there an abstention? There's 5 members.
Was there
here, that's
one abstention? Sorry.
That's Mr. Kelly, correct?
Kyle Kelly abstained from voting.
So it's 4-0-1.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Kyle, take over.
Bennett did it.
Yeah, I heard that, John. It's okay.
Kyle, I can't hear you. Your lips are moving, but nothing's coming over.
Mr. Kelly, you're on mute.
Hey, Kyle, you do not appear to be muted from our screen. Looking at it.
No. How about now? No.
I can hear you now, Kyle. I can hear you.
It's very faint and soft, though.
We can't hear you, Kyle. Still nothing.
Hello?
Now we hear you.
Okay, good. Are there any nominations for vice chairman? Duke,
I'd like to nominate Tom Bennett.
is there a second for nomination for Tom Bennett for vice chairman? Dave Bitso. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Are there any other nominations? For the vice chairman, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Abstention, so carried. Are there any nominations for secretary?
Mr. Kelly, could you just indicate that it carried, what the vote was to carry it, please? Because we're.
4-0
Thank you.
for vice chairman.
And the abstention was Mr. Bennett, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bennett, your nomination.
I'll nominate Commissioner Duke for the secretary position.
Are there any other nominations? Seconded by Dave. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Abstained? One abstention. So carried, 4-0. For,
Mr. Kelly, if you could just note that Mr. Duke was the abstention
I was
because
getting
we are remote. Thank you.
4-0, John Duke abstained. So myself as chairman, Commissioner Bitso as vice chairman, Commissioner Duke as secretary. For commissioner comments, Commissioner Duke, you were all set, or did you get to go yet?
I just want to thank Commissioner Kozlowski and Bitzel for their time as the chair and co-chair. And I think they were very valuable in our mentorship. And I wish the new board commissioner and co-chair the best of luck as we move forward.
I would also like to echo that. I'm gonna do the best I can here. Thank you. Hopefully I get your support and thank you for your time. And hopefully we can continue to move forward. I'd also like to add a thank you to the officer. I think there was one, there was possibly two. And chief or deputy chief, if you want to go back and look it up, it was the night of the snowstorm back on the 16th of December, I believe it was. We had a cardiac arrest up on Maple Street, which my crew and a few others, as well as myself, responded to. Long story short, it was a female in her 30s who was in cardiac arrest, and with the help of the officer there, as well as the crew members from the ambulance and the VEMS medic, that woman was revived successfully and lives to tell another tale. So she's doing well. I've seen her in town a couple times. So kudos to the officers that were on scene and everybody else involved. So Commissioner Kozlowski.
I'd just like to thank the first select person for being at our meetings every month. It's nice to see that first select person is available to be at our meetings.
Okay, if there's no other comments from the commissioners, next old business evaluation update. Chief or deputy chief?
I'll speak. The evaluation since the last meeting, there were 3 employees that weren't evaluated. One hadn't evaluated since. A second one, I'm waiting for an outside agency to forward me the paperwork for the evaluation. The third one, we were going to evaluate him though, but due to recent personal issues, I guess we're going to have to wait to evaluate him, or we just evaluate him without him being present.
Any commissioners have any questions on the evaluations? Training?
Training, everybody's been doing the online training with our vendor. We're almost done with that. Couple of officers, I did send an officer for FTO, Field Training Officer Liability Training. She completed it last week. I have a couple of officers, well, we're gonna get a couple of officers to a class in February for handcuffing baton instructor class. It's going to be held up in Bloomfield, Connecticut, the week of February 22nd. I'm forgetting something offhand here, but I believe that's all about I got for now for training that I could think of. Any questions?
Commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Duke?
Deputy Chief, where would you say we're at with the departmental online training for the racial bias and sensitivity stuff?
The majority of the officers are done with it. We've had issues with 2 officers trying to get them online. I'm hoping this has been taken care of. I sent something out Monday to the company, or Tuesday to the company. Other than that, just about everybody's should be up to date on that, both the human trafficking, which is required every year, and the racial bias training. So with the exception of the two officers, everybody should be updated.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Update on the K9 vehicle. Chief?
We're still waiting for a delivery of one vehicle, which is an Expedition. I talked to the vendor today. That vehicle is in transit. He expects delivery the last week of January, first week of February. Could be sooner. He's got the paperwork. It's on its way on a rail car. So there's been some recent developments, though. I understand that the K9 officer is maybe interested in a different vehicle instead of the Expedition, one of the Ford Interceptor Explorers. I personally think that might be a better option. And so we're reviewing those options, going from a larger vehicle to the everyday Interceptor Explorer. I think it'll still fit them fine. A lot of departments have those currently. So we're reviewing that and trying to come up with a solution for that. So
Is the last Interceptor completed yet? Would it make sense to just use that if it's not completed yet? I know there was issues with vendors and stuff and some lag time with stuff. The last Interceptor that was ordered, I know at least I thought it was in process of getting done. Would it make sense to just use that, save time and money?
that's at the vendor. I'm not sure where that update is. I know they're working on that. I'm not sure how far along they are, but I think Commander Fabiano could have a better idea on that. But, I don't think there will be much difference. Car 9's ready to go. It's just a matter of pulling the back cage system and then putting the new cage system in with a hop system. So I think it'd be about equal, but we could check on that update and see where we're at with that.
Okay. Commander Fabiano, do you have anything to add?
Good evening, Commander Fabiano speaking. Yeah, I was up at the new vendors yesterday, and the vehicle stripped at this time. Currently, light bars installed. Most of the wiring is in place. We had some brief conversations with the officer who is looking to get the vehicle. Like the chief said, it sounds like he would actually prefer the Interceptor Explorer, so I think it'll be a good option for him. I just got some numbers for the rest of the equipment, texted me a little while ago. I going to continue to just review it at this time.
Commissioner Duke?
Just real quick, Commander Fabiano, would you say it would be a good time to hold off on doing any more of that vehicle instead of stripping out another vehicle down the road and just put everything on hold until we could get this one outfitted? Since it's already in that condition, pretty much.
Commander Fabiano speaking. Yeah, I could talk to the vendor tomorrow, sort of see where he's at with that. Equipment wise, the cage that's required for the K9 hop system, he's saying that they're currently extended time frames to get that equipment in. So we're looking at 8 weeks approximately. So as opposed to maybe tying up that vehicle, it may just be an option if it's going to take the full 8 weeks or if it's going to take longer than that. He was saying that currently K9 equipment for vehicles is through the roof, and the time frame for them is pretty extended compared to how it normally is.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bitzel, when you say the Interceptor, is that the Explorer that's in right now that's being outfitted?
Yes.
So, and that's something that would fit Canine Gallows needs? Size-wise?
Yes. Actually, he's the one, we kind of talked about it in the past, but we never really did anything. And then he brought it to Commander's attention, and then there was further discussion on that.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we make that the new canine unit for Officer Gallo, the new Explorer that's being outfitted as we speak.
So we'll have to, we need a motion to add that to the agenda. So we'll need a motion to add that to the agenda, and then we could take a vote on that.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We add it to the agenda.
Okay, so a motion by Commissioner Bitzo to add the allocation of the canine vehicle to the agenda. All those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Oppose?
And Mr. Kelly, just to be procedurally correct, I think Mr. Duke was seconding it, which you should note for the record before.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Duke. All those were in favor. There was a opposed by Commissioner Koskalowski. Abstentions? Is there any
Excuse
discussion?
me, I didn't oppose. My hand came up late.
Okay, all right, thank you for
I'm
clarifying.
in favor.
Gotcha. Okay, so all those in favor is, one more time for the record,
Motion to make the Explorer canine that's being outfitted currently the new canine for Officer Gallo.
yep, it was seconded by Commissioner Duke. All those were in favor, oppose, abstain, so moved. Commander Fapiano and Chief, if you guys can work that out. Officer Oskowski, have a question?
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you. And we are still working on the fundraiser for the cage and the hop system. If we could just get permission to put it on our department website and get it out there to the rest of the public now, so we can get the fundraising done for that to help out with the cost. I just wanted approval from you, from the chief and the board, if possible, so we can get that rolling. We have approximately $650 in there as of this minute. So that's all I got.
I don't think we need a vote. Oh, Commissioner Bennett.
How much does one of those systems cost?
So as Commander Fapiano was saying, we both went up there the other day and we looked at the progress of the car, where it was in right now. We just got the quotes over right now, like 10 minutes ago. The factory was a little late getting back to us. So I think maybe possibly me and Commander Fapiano can sit down and tomorrow and discuss. The boxes probably run about 3,000 and then 250. That's the box that goes in the back, which allows us to lock up certain equipment that needs to be secured at all times. The cage and the hot pop, I want to say it's around 4,500 or so for everything. And then we can go from there. But our goal on the website was like 4,100. We'll have to look at what it is for the Explorer compared to the Expedition.
Is this, and I don't remember, is this dog cross-trained? Is he cross-trained for drugs
Correct.
to purchase this?
That's up to the board. We were just trying to help out where we could. If the board wants to make that decision, that's fine.
Chief, how much is in there? Do you know off the top of your head? I want to say there was 80-something thousand in there. The last, is that correct?
Yes, there's 84 and some change in the seizure account. So obviously, we try to do grants or fundraisers. I think we should go that route first. And then if there's anything that remains, outstanding, then we could dip into that. That's my suggestion. Anytime we could get donations, I think that goes a long way.
Would that would it hold up the ordering to build up the money for the donations, or can they order it and kind of a cash on delivery type thing? If there's leftover that you don't fundraise, we can make up the difference.
Want to answer that, John, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can go ahead with the order and do what you just said, see how much we can get in the fundraiser, and then have a chat with the chief and the board and see what else we would need to make up the difference. This way it wouldn't hold up the process of getting at least ordered.
I think as Commander Fabiano, Chief Psychowski speaking, I think as Commander Fabiano stated, you're about 8 weeks out. So that gives us, 8 weeks plus installation. So you're probably looking at 2 to 2.5 months. I think we could probably do probably a substantial amount of fundraising. I'm not sure how you're going to set it up. I think it's going to be an online, if I'm not mistaken, John. Or so I think we could do that route first, and then do the rest, what's ever remaining, to match it or to pay it off at the end.
Yep, it's an online, it's a Hero K9. I'll give you all the information and we can get it on the website if that's okay.
So I don't think we necessarily need a vote. Chief, you're okay with putting that stuff up on the website, help boost that stuff out, Facebook and all that kind of stuff? Perfect. And I'm sure the rest of the department and friends and First Selectwoman Anne Marie.
We'll push it through the first selectman's office as well.
Okay. Anything else under the K9 car update? Update on the inspector's position? Chief?
Yeah, Chief Psychowski speaking. So, as you know, our vendor is South Central Criminal Justice. He has finalized with his vendor the testing process. And he sent me the information yesterday. I forwarded it to all the candidates. Originally, there were 7 employees with 1 in limbo. I added that last one to the list. So there are currently 8 employees that will be taking that test. The test is scheduled, the written test is scheduled for March 15th, 2021, pending any unforeseen circumstances, but that looks like a pretty firm date. And then the oral test will be approximately a week after, the 22nd or 23rd of March. And then the results will be tallied. And then, once I get that, I'll let the board know. And then we can hold our meetings and interview process with the board and then make a selection. So you're probably looking at the end of March, first week of April or thereafter when everything's finalized.
Any board members have any questions? Commissioner Bennett?
Chief, I heard there's costs associated to the officers for taking this test. Is that true?
Sure, there could be. A reading list was provided, and the reading list, the officers are always responsible for obtaining those reading lists and purchasing the books or material that to take that test.
Commissioner Bennett, again, what's it costing us for this testing process with South Central?
In the past, I don't have a final bill, but in the past, these usually go for about $1,100-1,200, depends on how many people take the test. And then obviously there's some costs with the oral board, with the candidates, the people, the panelists, and there's usually lunch provided and coffee and stuff. So all that gets tabulated, but we're probably in the range of, I had to guess, $1,200 to $1,500, but I don't have a final cost on that.
12 to 1,500.
Based on prior exams.
Okay, all right. I'm just not used to officers having to pay for study materials. I'm just, I'm not used to seeing that, and I'm wondering if that's a normal thing to have happen here.
Yes, that has been the procedure since I've been here. All my promotion exams I have taken, we were responsible for purchasing the books, etc. The only time South Central or whatever, if there was new case law or court, they would make copies of certain material, and then that would get distributed in copies from, I guess, harder to get material, or however they decided that. But as far as books and stuff that were needed for the exam, it was up to the individual officer to make those purchases. Obviously, this is not mandatory. This is optional. I think it's an investment in their future and career. So, that's what one has to decide if they wish to take a chance of getting promoted, and there's costs with that. So, I'm not sure what those book costs. I think there's 5 or 6 books. I have it here somewhere. The list that came out. What those costs are of those books, I'm not sure. I haven't taken one in a while, several years, but some of those books could be costly, but I'm not sure of the current cost.
Commissioner Duke?
I too am a little surprised that we're making the candidates pay for their own materials, especially if these costs could be kind of high. That could deter, I think, candidates possibly from putting in for it. Is there any way to consider like reimbursement if they come out with a passing grade, or if they meet a certain criteria? I think that's highly unfair to penalize these guys for promotional opportunity. It seems out of the ordinary.
Chief Sarkowski, I don't think we're penalizing anybody. I mean, we're following the collective bargaining agreement. It says the cost of the exam will be paid by the department. I think that's what we're doing through the vendor. Any individual stuff after that, it's really up to the individual officer. But if the board wants to do something different, that's up to you. But right now, everything's being followed by the CBA. And
Yeah, I'm just curious what the cost is. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot to pay the vendor. I'm just curious what the materials are costing the officers. That's all.
Commissioner Bed, so I heard numbers up to as much as $600 for books, which seems awful high to me.
My only concern would be, if we turn around and do that, and other officers that had, we're in that same predicament now, are looking for reimbursement. That would be my only question and concern. Commissioner Koskalowski?
Yeah, my concern is your concerns. Everybody that went for promotional exams in the past had to pay for all their own books and everything. It isn't fair to everybody that had to be a commander or a sergeant or a detective for us to start paying out for the books. The other option would be that if we pay for the books then are turned in. So when the next test comes up, the books will be available. But the problem is they might be outdated. So at this time, I wouldn't be in favor of paying for the books, only because we didn't pay for any of them in the past. And I'm afraid that officers might say, listen, I had to pay for my books when I went for the sergeant's test, and I should be reimbursed too. So that's my concern.
I would agree with Commissioner Koskalowski. I could see that coming into play. Does anybody else have it? Chief?
Yeah, and my other concern obviously is one of budgetary. We're not budgeted to, if you're saying $500-600 an officer times 8, that is not in the budget currently. I mean, we would have to find that money. And that's hard to predict from year to year. We put some money aside, obviously, for testing process, just in case, but never to the extent, of this magnitude where that kind of cost is associated with a test. Just to let the board know.
Is there any other discussion about the inspector's position, or Commissioner Bennett?
Chief, have you reviewed the materials that have been sent out for study?
What do you mean review? I
Like,
saw the list. The list
Have
that
you
was.
looked at the list of the material that's been sent out?
I have, yes. I reviewed it yesterday when it was sent to me.
And do the study material, does it pertain to the Seymour Police Department? So in other words, if I pay $100-something for one of these books as reference material, is this something that an officer is going to find that they can go back to and use as reference material in the Seymour Police Department?
So just to clarify, I reviewed the list. I did not review the individual books. But a lot of this, the test is geared towards material in the books, just like a college level course, I guess, if you will. The reading materials provided, certain chapters in those books, and then test questions and everything are derived from those books, generally how these procedures work. Specifically to the Seymour Police Department, I think you're going to see that more in the oral exam, what's occurring, and some of those are tailored to I think what's happening around us in today's society and more in the 21st century. But in the future, these are books I think that they would be able to use just as I have used in the past for reference material and throughout your career. So that's kind of how these tests are set up.
Commissioner Bennett, I'm just concerned, Chief, that, we're asking people to spend money on materials here. And I don't know if any of those books were written regarding the new Police Accountability Act here in Connecticut, if there's going to be any questions pertaining that on the test, because in my opinion, that's where the officer's knowledge should be tested. I don't think a book on theory of, say, broken windows out of New York City is going to pertain to the Seymour Police Department, written by a commander from a department that big. My personal opinion is, and the horse is probably out of the barn on this, I would have liked to have seen them tested on policies, procedures within the department, the new Police Accountability Act, items within that. And I'm just hoping that stuff is going to be somewhere on the written test. And it's not in these books on theory that probably, I haven't looked at them myself, but I'm not even sure they're going to apply to Seymour Police Department. That's my concern.
Chief, is this the same practice that South Central would use if any other department were to use them for this type of testing purpose?
This is throughout my whole career, this is kind of a standard practice that is applied with these written exams. So this is not abnormal. This is the normal. My whole career, it's been that way, from sergeant to lieutenant to all the way up the ladder with these written tests. So
what I'm saying is if
this is normal practice.
Yeah, so if Orange contacted South Central for the same thing we're doing, they'd get the same study work and coursework that they would be utilizing for the test, correct?
It's possible.
Same type, maybe not the same exact thing, but the same general.
Is geared towards the position and what's the responsibilities and duties are of that position and the requirements and as a general. So you could take that information from any department. It's not New York City versus Seymour Police versus Orange versus Brantford. It's a testing vendor, just like you would entry level. And they're generalized, I believe, questions and based on the material that's provided to them, which gives them a working knowledge of the position that they are testing for.
Okay. I still have the same feeling that I expressed before. Is there any other discussion on that topic? Commissioner Duke?
I would like to, moving forward, make sure that these tests are based on relevant things that apply to our department and not, like Commissioner Bennett said, not theories from other departments or outdated materials that don't really apply to what we do here in our department. I just think, for the amount of money we're having these guys go into their pocket for, if it's just to pass the test and not to make them a better officer, if it's not going to benefit them for the rest of their careers with what they learn in these tests, then why are we focusing on that material? That's just my feeling, but.
Commissioner Koslowski? Did you have something? I saw your hand up. Commissioner Koslowski?
Yeah, my only comment is, I know the books, I believe I heard the range is around $600 for all the books. Each officer that is taking the test isn't going to read all the material at the same time. So if 2 or 3 officers want to go in together and buy the number of books and just change them back and forth, when they're finished with one book, they just transfer to others. They could save themselves some money doing this. I'm just hoping that the officers, the ones that don't get the promotion, it's still going to be a valuable lesson taking the test and getting the knowledge of the questions that were asked and what they should look for in the future. Will make them a better police officer too, whether they get promoted or not. That's my comments.
I do agree. Moving forward, I think the next time we have a promotion, we can look at, prior to getting things situated, that we have a discussion as a board and the chief and look at what we're going to be doing moving forward as far as testing wise, like Commissioner Bennett and Commissioner Duke said. Chief, did you have one last thing?
Yes. So 2 things. I believe that, they will be using the material they learn because it's general knowledge. I think it's transferable to anywhere they go in their career, whether it's Seymour or anywhere else. The material that they will be studying for the position. Number 2, as an option, if you wanted to look at purchasing one set of books and then making copies of the chapters, I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know if we can meet timeframes. But that's an option too, because when you look at the reading list, a lot of it is broken down into chapters and only certain chapters. So, if that's something maybe we should look at, purchase one set of books and then maybe try to make individual copies for everybody on those chapters. But what those chapters are, they could be 50 pages, they could be 10 pages. I have not personally seen any of the books and how long they are, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Chief, can you take a look at that moving forward, maybe tomorrow or by the end of the week, and make a decision if that's feasible to do?
We could.
Okay.
Option, I guess.
Okay. Is there any other discussion as far as the inspector's position is concerned? Update on the COVID protocols. I don't know if we need to go specific into the protocols, but Chief, is there anything new that you need to report on as far as COVID is concerned?
Nothing really new as far as protocols. Over the past, since our last meeting, we had several officers that were affected by it. They've been out, in and out. And then we had some on quarantine, as I said, one recently today. But we continue to monitor that situation every day, and we make those adjustments. But right now, I think we're holding our own. I've registered everybody. Obviously, they're trying to distribute vaccines. We're in the 1B category, but as Commissioner, as you know, Mr. Kelly, Commissioner Kelly, you know where we stand on some of that. But to apprise the board, we're in category 1B, which is first responders, because we're not 1R. We got pushed further down the list. And, we're probably looking at the end of February, maybe March, by the time our group is called and available. But we obviously surveyed our employees as to who would want the vaccine. I think 23 of them responded back. I compiled that list. I registered us as a department to, if and when the state opens that portal that we can register, then I'll send them that list. And then hopefully we'll be getting our individual appointments. So we're ready to go on our end. We're just waiting for final approval from the state to say, go ahead and hit the send button and then respond back with appointments. So that's kind of the update.
Any commissioners have any questions? Update on the CPO position. Last I knew that was on hold because of COVID. Has there been any change with that, or are we still on hold?
Still on hold. Nothing new to report on that position at this time.
Okay,
high and everything that's going on, I don't recommend implementing that at this time.
okay, so we'll keep that as is. Patrol reports?
Commissioner Kelly or Chairman Kelly, if I can I go back to the training for a minute? Because I said I forgot something. I just remembered what it is. Just
Go ahead, DC.
a couple of things. Some of the officers got refresher course on taser training. And also for 3 days, I sent 6 officers. They were basically online for a use of force seminar. That's the couple of things I forgot to mention earlier. As far as patrol, it's all self-explanatory. If you guys have any questions.
Any questions on patrol reports? Chief?
Yeah, I'd just like to commend the third shift. They've been quite active and busy lately. They had several cases that led to several good arrests, one including last night, where a vehicle was pulled over. Several weapons, illegal weapons, were found in that car on a person that has a history of weapons and drug activity. And so that person had weapons, cash, drugs, and he's currently in our custody. Be going to court tomorrow, but they did a nice job, stopping that and investigating and making that arrest. So I commend them for their efforts, and they're out there hitting the streets, patrolling the streets, neighborhoods, and doing a good job. So.
Any commissioners have any questions on patrol reports?
I don't have, Commissioner Bennett, I don't have any questions. I just want to say, nice job by all. It's evident that patrol and the detective division are working together to do some great crime fighting here. And it's nice to see that. And thanks to the deputy chief there for making training a priority. It seems like we're getting somewhere with that now. I like to see that. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple more things on the patrol stuff. We got a couple, we had a rash of break-ins back in December. Again, patrol and the detective bureau working together. We did get an arrest warrant for the party. We just need to find him and make the arrest. A couple of other cases that we're going to be closing up soon are the fatal on Route 67 in North Street. An arrest warrant was applied for that. That occurred last year. And then we had a fatal, we're probably closing out soon also down on Clinton Road, Clinton Street, as well as Rimmon Road. We're going to be closing that out also. And I'm missing one more road, but any questions, any other questions?
Detectives report?
Detectives have closed out of a couple of cases. Again, one involving patrol and the DB. Like I said, we have the arrest warrant on downstairs waiting for the party. We're going to be closing out that Lake Housatonic incident from over the summer. That'll be closed out, and you guys we'll get a report on that next commissioner meeting. Basically, they're keeping busy with what they have.
Commissioners have any questions? How have things been going in the interim right now with the lack of inspector and the lack of DC? That's for either one of you.
As far as in the DB,
Yeah, just in general, between patrol and the DB, with having, lack of basically two administrators, the inspector and the second deputy chief's position.
so for,
Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say, so far, fingers crossed, everything has been working out very well. Chief?
Chief, if I may, it's been a struggle. We're making it work, but we're not as efficient as we should be. Obviously, 50% of your help and assistance is down, and at times we are struggling. You can't operate 100% at 50%. That's the bottom line. You know, we're trying to make it work, but we're not as efficient in 100% where we should be. And that's concerning because over time that wears you down as a person, wears you down in your position. And then things start falling through the cracks, minor things, but then those could turn to bigger things. So as I've been requesting, I would like to see those positions filled sooner than later from the deputy chief and the inspector. And then we backfill on the bottom end. And I know we're going to be discussing budget, and I'll go over that in my budget, but it's kind of my input on that.
Okay. Anything else? Any commissioners have anything else for detectives report? K-9 report? Officer Oskowski?
No, we've been out there. We're busy with everything going on nowadays. Helping out other towns. That's about it.
Any commissioners have any questions for Officer Oskowski in the K-9 report? Chief?
Yeah, so they've been busy with some obviously cases. Everybody knows about the Derby case that ended up in our town. They were called out that night. I think the following day or the day after, there was one or two others. So you know, even though you know it may not be directly in our town, it's around us and it does come into our town. So you know, and they've been getting called out for that and assisting with those cases. So
I will say I was there for the Bank Street one there, one from Derby, and then I listened to the one that went into Naugatuck, and it sounded like the K-9s tracked exactly where suspects were going. So obviously their training's good and they're being utilized. So car report. I apologize. I don't know if I asked if any commissioners have any questions on the K-9 report. I don't remember. Okay, seeing none. Car report.
our report's really nothing to report. Everything's up and running. As we said, one's in transit. And then we'll work on that, getting that outfitted, and so that's it.
Any questions from any commissioners? Car report. New business. I would like to add under new business, if anybody would like to make a motion, executive session for personnel issues. If we can add that to the agenda, if there's a motion to do so. Motion by Duke.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if it's going to be for personnel, we should note if it's a certain employee, you can go into executive session under the Freedom of Information Act, but you have to give that person the opportunity to have those discussions in public.
Okay, what if that person is out at the time?
You still have to, I think I know the person you're talking about. It would not be proper to go in to talk about that person in executive session without giving him or her that opportunity under the Freedom of Information Act.
Commissioner Duke?
Would we go into executive session just to discuss any current open IAs and what the status of those IAs are?
No, that wouldn't be appropriate either. I think you'd have to give the individuals notice of that if they're involving a certain employee. And you're discussing discipline or conduct involving the person under the Freedom of Information Act. It's very limited reasons you can go into executive session.
So you obviously understand the reason I'm thinking of, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So you don't think it's a good idea?
I think I know, and I think I could tell you in general if I was asked, you know, what's going on, you know, where we are in the process without any details, you know, if it's the officer, there was an incident involving an officer last week, which is public knowledge. It was in the newspaper. If you're asking about that specific officer, it would not be appropriate to go into executive session to talk about him without putting him on notice that you wanted to speak regarding that personnel issue and giving him the opportunity.
What if we ask the chief for a email with an update on that situation.
You don't want that. You might be able to do that. Let's talk about that. And I can tell you for that employee that the town attorney, Attorney Holcomb in particular, is talking with Mr. Pelosi. And we'll be talking with the first select woman and the chief about the appropriate action, if any, that should be taken at this time, given the circumstances and the past. So
Okay.
that's an active topic right now.
All right, so we'll leave it as is, and if possible, Chief, can you send out just an update to the board members, if possible, in the next day or two of where we stand? Grooming policy under new business. Not,
Mr. Chairman, could I ask one question?
Go
Commissioner
for it.
Bennett? Attorney Leclerc, is there any way, how do we go about getting an update on all the internal affairs in the department right now? I don't want details, just want to know how many cases there are, how many are open, when was the last time they were investigated, when the date was that they were initiated. So we know the status of how many we have going on, and should we be directing any resources in that area?
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was going to say, I think the chief can run a report and get that to us probably by end of week, I would assume, correct?
I would agree that that's probably the best way. We could talk about that. We're not talking about specific people. We can ask, you can ask that question, Mr. Bennett, or any of the commissioners, to the chief or deputy chief. How many IAs have been punched, are open? What's the status? What are their age, the aging of them, and when do you anticipate closing them with either discipline or just closing them?
So, Chief,
Would it be more appropriate to put that in an email, and address it in an email, or?
I think the chief has his hand up. He may have an answer how he's
Okay.
going to present that.
Chief?
Well, yeah, I was working on that yearly report for next month. And, as we discussed in the past, you would like the yearly report. So the deputy chief is currently investigating some. He's trying to close those out. So I was kind of waiting for the outcome of those and then compile that yearly report, which I was going to submit next month to the board for the yearly report on IAs.
Commissioner Bennett?
All right, Chief, just a general question. Are you overwhelmed with internal affairs investigations that are going on right now? Do you have enough resources to investigate them in a timely fashion? Are they completed in a timely fashion? I know we have, what, a 90-day time frame here for them to be opened and completed.
Yes, we try to meet all those timelines. I'm going to be reviewing those. As I said, we had discussion, the deputy chief and I'm compiling that report. But I'm going to review that and maybe reassign some that need to be reassigned. Because right now the deputy chief is the only one that does them. And, with everything else that's got going on and plus those. So, yeah, we might need to reassign some of those. So I'll be reviewing that probably within the next week and then see what I could do to enhance that, if you will, and speed up the process on some of those.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on, if nobody has anything else, the grooming policy, Commissioner Kosklowski, I'll
Yes.
to you. This was obviously your agenda, so I'll punt that over to you.
Yeah, this was placed on the agenda. A memo was signed off by the first select person and the union president. One of the memos concerning the facial hair, the beards, and the other memo was private duty shorts. I did talk to the town attorney about it, and who has the authority concerning that. The first select person can certainly sign off on these here, and I agree with that. But under the charter, the Board of Police Commissioners have the authority as far as policy, and these are two policies. So I would just ask if Attorney Leclerc could just explain this to the board so that everybody's on the same page.
If I may, I do remember both of these that were brought up in two separate meetings. I think one was, maybe back from January of last year, and another a few months later. I'm pretty sure that we all agreed to refer this back to the negotiating team for the contract, because it was something that was originally brought up in the contract, both items. Originally, actually there was a third originally too, which was the coveralls, but I'm pretty sure we had agreed as a group to, or as a board, to send that back, and that was to be handled as part of the negotiations. Commissioner Duke?
I was just going to say, I believe the reason that it came to the board was it came to a stalemate between both sides, and they came to us for a ruling on it, and we kicked it back to them since we were not part of the negotiations process, and we didn't want to get involved in disrupting that process. That we put it back on both sides to come up with a solution on it, and that we would agree to it. That's the way I remember it.
Commissioner Bitzel? You're muted. You're muted, Dave.
You're muted, Dave.
Dave, you're still muted. And you're still muted.
Sorry about that. How about now? Okay. 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 I did go back in the minutes today looking for that language that you guys are talking about here. I didn't see anything specific to what you're saying. I do remember some general discussion. With that said, those two items were not part of the contract, the new contract. It wasn't part of the negotiations. It wasn't part of the contract. It was just a policy that was maybe attached to it. So the charter does say that the commission is in charge of all policy for the police department, but I'd still like to hear Mr. Leclerc's take on it.
Before we go there, Commissioner Koslowski, you were just after Commissioner Bitzel.
Yeah, I just want to clear it up that the first select person has a right to sign memos such as this, but the Board of Police Commissioners can either, we could say we don't like it and resolve it. I mean, the Board of Police Commissioners are in charge of the personnel and the policy. So I just asked Attorney Leclerc if he could explain it to the board and not me, because I'm not an attorney. So everybody's on the same page.
Attorney Leclerc?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, you all are generally correct. This is something that was bargained for with the union since I remember back in the fall of 2019, a negotiating session. I believe it was Officer Martin brought up the shorts, among other things we were discussing. Not the shorts, I'm sorry, the facial hair, the grooming, among other things. The union reps were there, etc. It is a subject of bargaining. And as you know, your first selectman as the head of personnel is responsible for the negotiation of the contract with the union. If you remember back at the December 16th meeting, it was reported the first selectman would get back to the union by year end regarding the status of negotiations. There were additional negotiations. We had one, an extended one, I recall, at Town Hall in the basement with the union and all the reps and the town reps and Mr. Koskolowski. The negotiations concluded. We have a signed contract, and we also have an addendum to the contract that deals with the grooming policy. That is something that the first selectman can do. You also have jurisdiction over that. If it was not part of the collective bargaining process, Mr. Bitzo is correct, you can enact certain policies, and that would be one of them. I think the way it is right now, if you as a commission were not happy with how the policy is followed or how it works or how it's applied, you or the first select woman would have the authority to change that policy or to revoke that policy, since it's not, I don't believe, locked in for the entire 5 years as are other terms under the contract. So it's somewhat of a concurrent jurisdiction issue.
Are there any other questions regarding the grooming policy or any of the other policies or memos that were given out? Okay, I don't believe we need to act on anything there. It's already set. It's the chief, who can do that, and that was part of what they discussed. So If there's no other questions there, Chief, I'll give it to you as far as the 21-22 budget review.
Okay, thank you. So budget was compiled. There's really nothing hidden in this budget. It's pretty straightforward. It encumbers all the contractual obligations. So all the salary accounts meet those contractual obligations. The only increases you really see, obviously, are in the salary accounts, including supernumeraries. The overtime I adjusted to make up for some of that because as the regular wage goes up, overtime, obviously that line item went up. However, I will say this, there's hope that money might be saved during the negotiations. A comp time policy for a trial period of 1 year is being enacted, and we're going to see the pros and cons of that. So if the pros are good, then we might be able to save some money. And so that figure might come down a little bit. We might be able to go back to the previous year figure there. But other than that, the only other cost you see, obviously, in training, obviously with this new mandate, there's additional training that's going to be required. So I put the training budget for where I was last year at my request. That got cut back approximately $28,000. But this year I put it back to where it was last year based on mandatory training that's going to have to take place based on that House Bill 6004. And then the only other increases you see are in some of the vendor items, the 500 and 530. Those went up a slight increase due to increases with vendors. And we still might get hit with some increases that we're not even aware of because some of these vendors don't tell you till like June or July, and they'll just send you a notice and pop an increase on you. But we tried to anticipate that. Other than that, everything's at last year's monies, and we're going to try to make that work. And this budget includes everything from my office all the way to the newest patrol officer. So that's with the 2 deputy chiefs, the inspector, and then all the detectives, and then obviously all the patrolmen with every spot filled at 41 full-time positions. And then obviously it encompasses 2 supernumeraries at the current time. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And we did request 2 cars during the budget summit. There was discussion on that again through the board and the board's finance chair. He recommended we take those out at this time, and we would be able to purchase possibly those 2 vehicles with any money remaining at the end of the fiscal year, just has been done probably the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So he basically said, you know the drill. That's kind of what we do to make it work. And so that's the bottom line on the budget. And the budget has to be at town hall by Friday. So that's why it's on the agenda today for your approval. And then if it gets approved or, wherever you think, I will make the copies, get them over there. And then we're tentatively scheduled for February 1st, which is a Monday night, I believe at 7 o'clock, for me to present this budget to the full Board of Finance as they start their budget process for the year.
Chief, as far as the cars are concerned, are you talking fiscal year 21-22 or the end of this fiscal year?
To purchase?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so we put in for 2 cars for 21-22, but if there's any remaining money from 2021, then we will obviously ask for that transfer wherever we could find those monies, and then take those POs, purchase orders out. And then, but again, by the time you order and availability, you're looking at into 21-22, but we would use the 21-20 monies.
Yep, I just want to make sure I followed that correctly.
If available.
Thank you. Hopefully the commissioners had time to review the chief's budget. Do any commissioners have any questions for the chief or concerns? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the chief's proposed budget and move it forward and let it go to town hall? Motion by Commissioner Duke, second by Commissioner Bennett. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Is there any discussion? Okay, motion carries. Chief, you're all set with the budget.
Mr. Chairman, if you could just note again that it carried unanimously, please.
Unanimously carried. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Leclerc.
you.
Correspondence. If I looked, I saw two, both from a resident at 65 Woodside Avenue. One addressed to Officer Mark Pinto and the other addressed to Officer Tim Martin, stemming back from a structure fire that was at her home. I believe it was back in December. Somebody can quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was back in December. Thanking them for their actions and their assistance and basically helping save their house. So, Chief, I asked that a copy of these letters, if they haven't already done so, been added to their files.
Absolutely. That's, I think, already been taken care of or ready to be filed.
Great. If there's any other correspondence that I'm not aware of, does anybody have anything? Okay, moving forward, does anybody have anything under other business? Commissioner Duke?
Just real quick, Chief, I had a question from a citizen over on Stoddard Street. And he was inquiring about any cars that we potentially have impounded, and if they go for auction or if we sale, we'll be holding any kind of sale for, public, or if he needs a certain license to bid on those. Is there something we do with those, or some direction I could give them?
So basically, we do not handle that here. Most of our stuff is usually of evidentiary and it gets disposed of through the court system. But any surplus vehicles we have usually get handed down to town departments who have first priority pick at them. And then if they don't want them for some reason, then they usually go down to the Department of Public Works or another site where the town feels to store them. And then I believe through the first selectman's office and the Board of Selectmen, they're the ones that put those out as a public auction, if you will, and then they get all at once. So usually they let the cars sit there, trucks from DPW, whoever, other town departments, and then they do them all at once. So it happens once every couple of years on our end, so just for them. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Duke, they actually just did that. I don't know, I want to say maybe a year or so ago. They had a line of vehicles sitting down at Public Works and they just finally got around to doing it. It wasn't an easy process, so. Commissioner Bitso?
Just one thing that I know the chief had brought this up earlier, as far as the budget goes for supernumeraries. Has any progress been made since the last meeting to pursue new supernumeraries to the addition to the force?
So since our last meeting, we've been basically promoted word of mouth right now. I got a resume in for a full-time position. And the other deputy chief has talked to some people that were interested. So right now it's basically just been word of mouth, spread out there a little bit. But we'll start pursuing a little more aggressively. We did apply for some academy seats for full-time. We're waiting to see if we get those academy seats or in satellite academies. But that'll be a work in progress, and we'll try to move that ahead a little more. But right now, no supernumeraries. I got an application for a full-time resume.
Okay, thank you.
If no one has anything else on their old business, commissioner comments, Commissioner Bennett. You're muted, Tom.
Just Commissioner Bennett, two quick things. Just wondering on the status of the emails.
Are you referring to the emails for the commissioners?
Yes, correct. Sorry about that. I know we talked about it in the very beginning, back December of 2019, that we'd possibly be able to get an official email address instead of using our personal emails for board materials.
Chief?
Yeah, so that was discussed way back when. I know they were trying to iron some things out with our vendor, but they're looking to switch vendors. So I think they were looking to wait until the town switches over to a new system. They upgraded servers and I think some things at town hall. And I know Detective Matasovich has been working with the town IT person, Rob Dyer. I've had several conversations with him, but they have to complete some stuff on their end. But I'll see if we can get them into the current system, but they tell me that we're basically going to be switching over hopefully sooner than later. So I'll check on that and try to get an answer as to timeframes, whether we're going to kick over to the new vendor or I think we're trying to get away from our current vendor and then do it more in-house and on the town servers and stuff. So I'll try to get an update as to when that will occur. Or if we could just make it sooner than later to get you on our current.
Chief, it's Joe Matasovich. Do you want me to jump in there?
If you can, yeah, to give an update.
Commissioner Bennett, just FYI, right now they're in the middle, the town hall with Rob Dyer. They're doing some major server infrastructure changes. What happened was this current server is running out of space for email. So it's a must that they have to do this. I just literally talked to Rob about it because it's on my radar because some of the vendor that currently provides us our email went up in price and it's going to a subscription-based service. So there is a big push to get this done sooner rather than later. So I anticipate it being done hopefully before the springtime.
Okay, thank you. Listen, I'm not looking to cost anybody money here. I was looking for an update and that's satisfactory. And then Chief, one last question in regards to emails. I noticed your weekly report comes on Saturday night. And I would just feel bad that you're sitting home when it should be family time, doing department business. So I'm just wondering if there's a particular reason that it comes on Saturday nights instead of like a weekday when you're actually working.
Most of just availability. I mean, sometimes I leave here and it's not done, and then I consider myself always working. So I know you want to file by the end of the week. So I just try to send it out no matter if it's Friday, Saturday, by the end of the week as requested. So.
Understandable. I don't know what the feeling is of the other commissioners, but myself personally, I'll speak for myself that I'd rather not see you do it on a Saturday night when you should be spending time with your family. And if you don't get it done Friday, I think Monday morning would be acceptable also. But again, I'm not going to speak for the whole board. You probably give enough time during the week or you don't have to do it on the weekends also.
Detective Matasovich, give me a shout during the week. I have a thought as far as the email is concerned.
I like thoughts. Okay, no problem.
Commissioner Bitso.
Yes, Chief, on the weekly reports, I know that the last maybe month or two, you've been sending it as an inclusion to your email. Could you go back to sending it as an attachment, as an Excel attachment? Like you did the first 3 or 4 months?
I guess I could. I just figured it's the same report, and sometimes I do it remotely, so I won't be able to scan in remotely. So sometimes that's the way I do it.
The reason is when we print it out, it prints to 2 pages instead of the one. So it just, it worked out well that way. And then the last, like I said, 6 weeks or so, you've been sending it inclusive to your email, and it's just it's not separate. So it's harder to save, harder to print. It would be appreciated.
Anything else under old business? Moving on, commissioner comments. I'll start with Commissioner Koskalowski.
Yeah, one of my comments is, are we still going to have a special meeting next Wednesday concerning attorney-client privilege?
I didn't know we had one on the radar. I will touch base with, I guess, Attorney Leclerc, maybe tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. And if we will, I'll make sure we get that situated and sent out.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bitzo,
All set, thank you.
Commissioner Duke,
I just want to give praise out to all the guys who are out there doing the patrols. I know I was vocal on it a couple meetings back that I wanted to see more patrols and less stationary units, and it looks like it's paying off. And I hope they keep up the good work and they stay safe out there. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Commissioner Bennett,
Excellent job by all, and thanks to the men and women of the police department doing a phenomenal job.
I'll echo that. I have seen quite a bit of patrols out there, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, it's been quite busy the last several weeks, if not few months. And I would like to say again, thank you to Commissioner Bitzo and to Commissioner Koskalowski for their time served as the officer roles within the Board of Commissioners. And that's all I have. Union business. Does the union have anything they would like to discuss? Officer Oskowski.
I don't think we have anything at this time.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Duke, second by Tom. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Have a great night.
Good night,
All right,
all.
everybody.
7:54.